everyone, welcome to the Azure Administrative demo section conducted by Mindmajix. Today we'll be learning and going through all the components related to Microsoft Azure AZ-104. I hold 6+ years of overall experience in cloud. I'm based in Singapore and I'm a certified Microsoft trainer with an associate certified Azure Administrator badge, with a fundamental badge and a Scrum Foundation badge. So moving ahead, our course curriculum. This is an official Microsoft course curriculum. We'll be covering, as a Microsoft certified, we'll be covering each and every point what Microsoft has governed us. So there are a total of 11 modules in this course. So with starting with identity, we'll be learning about Azure Active Directory. We'll be learning about users. We'll be learning about groups, how many users we can assign, how to give access in a group, how those groups are given access to a particular resources or to a particular subscription. So that will be covering in our module 1, and module 2 are linked to each other. In module 2, we'll be doing governance and compliances. We'll be learning about our subscriptions. We'll be learning about accounts, what are subscription, what are tenants, what are different types of subscriptions we have, what are different types of resource groups we have, how to give and what is Azure policy, how to give access to that policy, how to give access, what are different types of access. You cannot, for an example, you have an intern joining your company. You cannot just go and give him access, admin access for all your resources, right? He will go and screw up your resources, then you will be in big problem. So how to give an access to a particular resources which you want to give, how to give access to a particular subscription, how to give an access to a particular resource group. So right now this resource group, what I'm telling, you will be understanding very in depth about it once we start the course. So guys, not to worry about it if you don't understand any terms right now, but we'll be going in depth and understanding each and every term. So that will be covering in our module 2. Moving in module 3 is an Azure Administrator. So we'll be covering our 90% or let's say 95% of our topic using Azure portal, but there are different methods like Cloud Shell. We also have PowerShell. We also have Azure Bash, which is nothing but CLI. So we'll be seeing how can we deploy different types of resources. Resources is nothing but virtual machines or web applications or different type of resources which Azure is providing. So we will see how can we deploy that using Cloud Shell. We'll do a Bash Shell or a Azure portal. So we'll be deploying our 1 or 2 virtual machines. We'll be deploying a Linux virtual machine. We'll be deploying a Windows-based virtual machine using our Cloud Shell or a Bash Shell or a PowerShell. So this helps in the automation when someone tell you to go and deploy 10 or 100 virtual machines, which is not possible to do it one by one. So we use some kind of automation. So that is nothing but as an infrastructure as a code. Fourth module, which is very important and which holds the maximum number of weightage in your examination, is your virtual networking. We'll be learning about what is virtual networking, what are IP addressing. We'll be learning about security groups. We'll be learning about firewall. We'll be learning about Azure domain name system, which is nothing but a DNS. So in our firewall, we'll be studying about inbound rules, outbound rules, how to give an access to whom, to which port to give an access, to which port should be blocked. In our security groups, we'll make us groups, secured groups, and will be NSG. Will be deploying. We cannot have each and every system with different security, right? So we'll group them and we'll define certain policies to it. We'll be learning about IP addressings, how to divide your subnetting, how can you have a production IP addressing, how can you have a testing production, or how can you have a UAT production. So each and every aspect will be covering in our virtual networking topic. Leading further to it, it's our module 5, which is an inter-site connectivity. We'll be learning about Vnet peering. We'll be doing VPN gateway connection and point-to-site connection. So let's just get an introduction about what is Vnet peering. So Vnet peering is, for an example, you have a resource in Azure, within Azure itself, and they are in different zones. So for an example, is in East US, this is in West US, and this is having a different VNet, this is having a different VNet. So how can you make them talk to each other? So we'll be doing a complete peering where our 2 different subscription, or let's say 2 different companies want to merge to each other. So how can you merge their components? So we'll be learning about that, where we'll be doing a peering between 2 different resources and talking to each other. Then comes your VPN gateway connection. So for an example, this is within Azure. So we'll be learning how can you do a on-premise connectivity to Azure cloud to your particular resources. So in this topic, we'll be covering on-premise connectivity with Azure, also within Azure, the connectivity. Then what is point-to-site? This is also known as site-to-site connectivity. We'll be learning about point-to-site connectivity where defined user laptop we want to go and connect to our Azure cloud. So everything, the connection once it's happened, every resources or everything will be connected using a private IP and not a public IP. So that's why we have to do a connection. So if there is a connectivity, then only you can go and connect to a private IP. So in our production environment, no IPs are publicly accessible. So we need to do some connectivity to access them privately. So point-to-site connectivity is where a single user's laptop or a computer who is out of office or he is away, like during a pandemic, everyone is working from home. So how they go and connect using a VPN to this and access the resources. Moving ahead on traffic management, that's the module 6. We'll be learning about network routing. We'll be learning how can you route point A to point C, how can you route network coming to point A if you have a firewall in point C. So how can you route a traffic from A to C, then only after the firewall accepts the traffic, then only traffic should come. So we'll be learning about configuring our routing endpoint. We'll be learning about load balancing. So how two resources connected to a load balancer can divide the load, all the traffic coming to the load balancer. How can you divide the load to it? So we'll be learning about our load balancer. Traffic manager, guys, this is an application where in today's world, without having a traffic manager, no applications are happening worldwide. So traffic manager covers geographical traffic flow. So just giving you an example, we all are based in different countries. So we can, when we go to apple.com or when we go to amazon.com, or let's say we just type a Google search. So once we type a Google search saying restaurants nearby me, so every user will get a restaurant nearby his particular location. So I'm based out of Singapore. When I do a Google search of restaurant nearby me, so based on my geographical region, it will show me. And another user from US is doing it, he will receive a restaurant nearby. So how are this network being flowed? So if a person from US goes to apple.com, he'll be redirected to a US server, correct? If I do apple.com, I'll be redirected to a Singapore server. That is apple.singapore. So how are these networks flowing? How is this traffic management flowing from one region to another? How can we control that, or how can we force that network to go to a particular server? Each and every module we'll be learning in traffic management, which is a very important topic in everyday's life. Moving ahead about module 7, which is an Azure storage. We'll be learning about storage account. So each and every resources needs require a storage. So we'll be learning about storage account. We'll be learning about different types of storage. We'll be learning about blob storage. How can you give security to your storage? We'll be learning about files. We'll be learning about file sync and managing the storage. In our module 8, we'll be covering virtual machines. We'll be studying about virtual machines. What is the best practice to deploy a virtual machines? What is an availability set? What is an availability zone? Or during a disaster recovery, how can you do a recovery? So what is virtual machine scale set? For an example, you are having $1 billion. You are owner of an e-commerce website and you decided to go live with a sales happening. So as in to sales happen, you are expecting a lot of heavy traffic to your application. So as and when the network reaches to your application memory utilization goes up. So if you don't have a particular load balancer or different primary endpoints to help your server, indirectly once the memory utilization goes up, the server will go down. In earlier world, when big e-commerce websites are having a sale, we all have experienced, the application being slowed down or someone facing 404 error or page not loading. So how to overcome such disaster, how to overcome such things, spending very less in resources. We'll be learning about virtual machine skill set. We'll be learning about web app skill sets. So each and everything we'll be learning in our virtual machine sections. In our serverless computing, we'll be learning about, this is all, earlier we all studied about IaaS, that is infrastructure as a service. In serverless computing, we'll be learning as a platform as a service, which is a PaaS environment. We'll be learning about deploying Azure web apps to to Azure. Platform as a service is something, service where Azure is providing us with a platform to just come and host our website. They will take care of the infrastructure. So we'll be learning about what are different service plans available in PaaS. We'll be learning about for web apps. We'll be deploying our web apps to it. So each and every functions of web apps we'll be learning in our module 9. So in module 10, we'll be covering about data protection. How can we back up our virtual machines? How can we back up our web apps? How can you back up any data of yours? Storage backup, disk backup. How can you restore a backup format, which we'll be studying in our data protection. We'll be learning about monitoring. We'll be doing Azure monitors. What are Azure alerts? We'll be learning about network WhatsApp, which all networks are coming together. So guys, these are the 11 modules we'll be covering in our course. So today's agenda will be completing overall view of Azure Cloud. We'll be doing course contents. We'll be doing about labs. We'll be also covering about certifications. So just an introduction about Microsoft Azure. Microsoft Azure has been leading cloud provider company. Right now we do have different cloud providers. We do have AWS, which is there. Then we got GCP. This is the cloud, Google cloud provider. We also have Alibaba. We got VMware. So what is making Microsoft Azure so unique? So Microsoft, as we all know, it's a leading platform and it holds all it's there in the market in all the aspects, be it that is an Office 365 or Dynamics and IoT, each and everything. So Microsoft Azure provides you with the bundle package. So most of the companies are going and taking that bundle packages so that they only talk to one cloud provider rather than they are distributed among multiple providers. In 2019, they have hit $229 billion of revenue from themselves by scale. There are different types of cloud providers as we have discussed. Is Amazon, AWS, this is the Google Cloud, IBM Cloud, VMware. So Microsoft Azure is giving neck-to-neck competition in each of the technology. What is the core technology in the market? As we all know that AWS has been holding in the market for a very long time. So people who are certified as AWS associate or DevOps, they are too many in the markets. There are too many competitions happening in the market for AWS. And right now with the pandemic happen, there are a lot of people who have lost their job. So they are all certified and they are in the market with this tough competition. So what will make you a unique person? Why will, when you go for a job, what makes you a unique? Listen to this. As we all know, Azure is developing right now and there are not many people who are certified Microsoft Administrator. Okay, they are people. It's not that they are not in the market, but they all currently very less. So once you go there, you will be certified as a Microsoft Azure Administrator. So you will be hot in the market and you don't have a competition. So if you go and clear one paper of AWS, there are already 10 to 15 people already certified with more experience than you. But if you clear Azure Administrative paper, is hot in the market right now. So there are less number of competition. So it will make you neck-to-neck competition. So as we all know, Microsoft certification path, we are currently over here. Microsoft holds multiple various certifications available for a user. We right now stand over here. The paper code AZ900 is the first paper code, which is an fundamentals paper code, which is a theory and which gives you an overall explanation in the theory terms about what is cloud, what are the types of cloud, what are the cloud type services, what resources do Azure provides. Each and every aspect of a cloud is covered in this paper. And to give this paper is an optional. So there is a paper certification paper happens for this and the examination, we can go and opt for an examination and we can, once you clear this exam, you will receive a badge of AZ900, which is an Azure fundamental. Following this path comes your AZ104, which is a Microsoft certified Azure Administrative Associate. This is an associate badge with a 2-star associate badge. So after clearing this paper, you have to write an AZ104, which is an successor of AZ103, which got retired in the month of August. So this is hot in the market right now and it gives you an administrative associate badge, which will cover each and every in-depth concept of cloud with the hands-on labs projects. And we'll be learning about Active Directory, we'll be learning about migrations, we'll be learning about how to deploy our resources, how to deploy our web apps, each and everything. As we move further in the course, we will be understanding. So this is a must paper code if you are giving giving an Azure DevOps engineer. If you guys have a plan to give an Azure DevOps expert, which is an AZ 400, and you want to receive an expert level badge, which is a 3-star badge, you have to either clear AZ 104 or AZ 204. So this is a prerequisite for this badge. If you have cleared this batch or this batch, which is an AZ 204, which is an Azure Developer Associate, once you clear this, then only you will receive this expert level badge after clearing your AZ 400, that is your DevOps engineer paper. You can go and give directly your Azure DevOps engineer badge exam, that's no problem, but you will be only receiving this AZ 400 clearance badge. But to receive this badge, you either have to clear a AZ 104 or AZ 204. Moving ahead, we also have Azure Solution Architect, which is also an expert level badge. So with that, we have to clear 2 papers, that is AZ 300, that is an Azure Architect Technology, and 304, which is an Azure Architect Design. Once we clear this 2 paper, we get this expert level badge. In our syllabus, we understand technology very high, so we almost cover AZ 303, almost 25 to 30% of the paper we are covering in our syllabus. That is an additional bonus which we are providing in our course content. As we move on, we'll be learning over that. I hope the certification part is well cleared in your mind right now, so we'll move ahead. So moving towards our lab, we'll be covering all the labs all the labs from the modules. We'll be going in depth on Azure Active Directory. We'll be doing manage identities and Active Directory. We'll be learning manage users, group. We'll be seeing whom to give access to, what are the different types of access available in Azure. We'll be also looking at, we'll be deploying our resources to Azure portal, to Cloud Shell, to PowerShell or CLI. So each in depth we'll be covering in our lab section. In our networking section, we'll be seeing what is virtual network. We'll be going in depth with subnetting. We'll be learning about what is private IP, what is public IP, how to do a static public IP, how to do a static private IP. We'll be defining our security groups. We'll be seeing inbound and outbound rules in our firewalls. We'll be doing private and public DNS, that is domain name systems. Okay, we'll be saying how Azure provides us with the domain name. Then moving ahead, which is connected to our networking topic, the labs is we'll be doing Vnet peering, where from one component from Azure will be communicating to each other. We'll be also seeing how can we do on-premise connectivity to Azure using a VPN gateway, and at the same time we'll be also doing point-to-site networking. Moving ahead, then we'll be also doing routing. If you want to route the traffic from one point to another, we'll be configuring our load balancer, where we'll be looking at balancing our application traffic, how the traffic can be equally distributed using a load balancer. Then a very interesting and high-end traffic manager we'll be looking at. So we'll be seeing what all traffic can be bounded to geographical region, to priority or somewhere else. So no applications, if you want to go globally, be that is Netflix, Apple, Google or anywhere, they are using traffic manager in their applications. Moving ahead, we'll be seeing how to create a storage account. Then we'll be hosting our storage account. Then we'll be doing blob containers. We'll be also doing sharing. Then we'll see how to secure our storage, whom to give access, whom not to give access. Then we'll be doing manage. We'll be accessing our storage to a file called Storage Explorer, which is a Microsoft application. Moving ahead to that is our virtual machines. We'll be saying skill set. We'll be saying how to deploy our virtual machine in availability set, availability zone in terms of disaster. How can we have our virtual machine up and running in different data center. We'll be seeing skill set where in one application, or let's say one virtual machine getting hit by too much traffic, so having a traffic. So how can you scale in, scale out? How can you troubleshoot that networking, or everything will be looking into a skill set perspective. We'll be deploying web apps. This is PaaS as a service, platform as a service. We'll be deploying web apps in our applications using a PaaS as a service. And in the last, we'll be doing backup and restore of virtual machines. So all these labs are the course curriculum of your labs are based on this course curriculum. But we don't stop here, guys. We are giving some bonus labs or bonus projects which we can say, because we work day to day in our on-premise, or to boost your CV or to gain more experience, we need more hands-on. So as I told you earlier, my course is also covering almost 25 to 30% of AZ 303. So all these topics are not there in your course syllabus or course content as per the labs, but I will be covering that. So what all will be covering as a bonus lab, let's look at into it. We'll be doing an Azure Active Directory migration. So we'll have on-premise Active Directory, and that Active Directory will be migrating to our Azure portal, and we'll see what is the benefit or what is the difference between Azure Active Directory and a Active Directory. Moving ahead, we'll be deploying our web app using a DevOps tool. So what is DevOps? DevOps, as we all know, is all the methodology of automating each and every aspect, which is known as we can create our own CI/CD pipeline, which is continuous integration, continuous development, continuous delivery. So we'll be, as everyone in today's world, they keep on updating their applications depending on the requirements, but you don't see Facebook going down. You don't see Facebook, Instagram, or any website going down due to maintenance, right? But they do provide with the updates. They do all the updates, all kinds of updates. So we'll be deploying our website into Azure, and we'll be upgrading that Azure web app without having a downtime. So we'll be doing continuous integration and continuous delivery. So we'll be looking at the methodology of how can we update or upgrade our web application without the end users having a downtime. Then we'll be hosting our static website. Static website is something where if you are a blogger or you just want to write a blog to it, we'll be hosting, and Azure provides us very cheap method using a storage account. So we'll be looking into it, how can we do that. Moving ahead with the DNS website, so we can go and purchase, purchase domain from godaddy.com. We can have that domain purchased and given to our applications or our website. So we'll be looking that also in terms of our labs. We'll be doing SQL connectivity. So SQL Server, will be spinning up a SQL Server. We'll be doing parallel SQL connectivity. So SQLs are also in IaaS platform, which is infrastructure as a code. It is also there in your PaaS as a service. So we'll be deploying a web application, and web application will be our front end, and behind we'll be having a SQL connectivity. So we'll be connecting our web application to your SQL Server. The last is your disaster recovery, where we'll be having, if your data center goes down, how can you replicate the same data in another data center? Or if you want to do a migration from one data center to another data center, we'll be covering over here. The last topic, what we'll be covering, what's the point of learning so many things and not doing a server migration, right? So we'll be covering the server migration. This will boost up your CV, and as well as you will gain a knowledge, and no institutes will teach you server migration in AZ-104. Okay, no other institutes will be teaching you server migration in AZ-104, as this is a topic of AZ-303. So what we'll be doing over here is we'll be doing an on-premise server migration. So on-premise, be that is AWS, GCP, or your on-premise server or your VMware server. So over here, what we'll do is we'll be having an on-premise Hyper-V server. So the Hyper-V can have different virtual machines like Windows, Linux, and we'll be migrating that server to your Azure. So we'll be doing a server migration. So we'll be having some of the projects. So in the projects, as I mentioned, we'll be doing Active Directory migration. So from our on-premise Active Directory, we'll be migrating to Azure Active Directory. And from that, how can you utilize your same users and go ahead and use your third-party applications, or you can use sign-in, you can do MFA, and each and everything we'll be looking into. Moving ahead, we'll be doing Vnet peering. As I said, we'll be connecting our one virtual network to another virtual network. As you can see, both are in the different IP zones, IP addresses. So we'll be connecting so that these both networks talk to each other in a private terms using a private IP. Then we'll have site-to-site connectivity in our projects also. So we'll have, this will be your on-premise. Okay, as I said, site-to-site connectivity is used to connect your on-premise server to Azure. So we'll have an on-premise server. How can you have an on-premise server what all configuration is required, and using this tunnel, dedicated VPN tunnel, how can you connect to your cloud environment. With that, this is known as site to site. With that, we'll also be covering point to site, where a particular laptop is connected using a tunnel, and that tunnel is connected to your cloud using a Azure VPN. So we'll be looking into both the aspects. We'll be looking into Vnet peering within Azure. We'll be connecting your on-premise to Azure, and also point to site connectivity. As I said about our Azure migration, so we'll be having a Hyper-V server, be that the flavor can be Windows or Linux, and we'll be migrating that server to our Azure environment. I'll be assisting you with lab setup. I'll be assisting you how to create a free account in Azure. You just require to have a credit card or debit card which is internationally approved. Not to worry, Azure or Microsoft will not charge your credit card or debit card, because Azure is providing you with $200 of free credit which is valid for 30 days. We can utilize this, and even though your 1 month subscription is over, Azure will not charge you until and unless you accept the terms and conditions and upgrade your plan to pay as you go. So in your free trial, you can use all the resources for $200, which is more than enough for your labs. And if you feel that your 30-day subscription is not enough, you can again recreate your email ID and recreate your new account and do your labs on it. So additional to this courses, Mindmajix will be providing you with all the recordings. I'll be sharing you with the study notes. I'll be sharing you all the step-by-step activity on labs using useful Microsoft link. I will be helping you with your resumes, to prepare your resumes. Okay, we'll be configuring your resumes, or we'll be sharing your resumes. That's it from our demo sections. So please feedback your comments or anything. If you have anything, I appreciate your feedback. It helps us to improve, to give good quality in trainings further. Thank you so much for your joining. Looking forward to have you on board. Thank you guys.